How has been your visit so far here in Kosovo?
Like all my visits to Kosovo, it was very productive. I want to start by saying something that I said in one of my last interviews. We consider Kosovo and the Western Balkans to be part of the transatlantic community. You're just not part of the formal structures, but in every way we count you as important partners and as productive members of the community. And every time I come here, I meet with business leaders, I meet with civil society, I meet with youth leaders, and I did this time as well, and they've really reinforced my opinion and the opinion of our government that the Western Balkans are more of an opportunity for Europe and the United States than a risk. And we just have to make that aspiration a reality.
I'd like to start with the current situation also on the north of Kosovo. Who do you see responsible for the barricades?
Well, look, what I want to say is less about laying blame and more about the way forward. So the reality is we need everyone to contribute to the process and everyone to contribute to the resolution of this current crisis. So I really believe that the barricades need to be taken down by the people who put them up. But we also need to give them a political path to be able to discuss their grievances through the political channels and through diplomatic channels. So that's how we're seeing the current crisis. And beyond the crisis, we need to start thinking about a more sustainable framework in which communities can work together in this country.
Kosovo Prime Minister said that the barricades in the north are influenced by Belgrade. Do you share the opinion?
I do share some of that opinion. However, in my discussions with the community there, they do have some grievances that need to be heard. I don't think that boycotts and barricades are the way to do it, but I do think that open communication, dialogue, and a real acceptance that there is a lack of trust between the two communities is important for us to be able to move forward successfully.
Do you think there is no sufficient dialogue with the local community from Prištine?
Well, I've heard that from them, and I've heard that from civil society members and from other people who are not politically connected, that in many cases they feel isolated from the central government. Now, that said, in some cases they also feel intimidated by some of the people who are linked to Belgrade. So we need to find a way out of this trap. And the way forward is through careful coordination, open dialogue, and fully engaging in the EU-facilitated dialogue.
Is Belgrade using the barricades as an excuse to improve its negotiating position in the dialogue?
That remains to be seen, but I have to say that there are still elements of lack of trust between that community and the central government. And whatever happens, whatever we do, there has to be trust between the communities before we can have a successful resolution.
If the locals don't remove the barricades, the Prime Minister called up on KFOR to do so. He said that he will be waiting for such a thing. Do you think KFOR should, do you expect KFOR to remove the barricades?
We expect the people who put them up to take them down. But we also expect for them to be given a way forward where they can address some of the issues. Now, there are some issues where we have to be firm. Now, on some issues regarding the rule of law, with regard to legitimate arrest warrants, those should be adjudicated in the courts and not on the streets. However, questions about buy-in by the community, for example, on administrative procedures like number plates, they should have a voice in that. We've encouraged the government to give them a voice in that. And we're going to continue to try to bring the two sides closer together and to focus their attention on the EU-facilitated dialogue.
I'll move to another issue. Serbian President Aleksandra Vučić said on December 15, Serbia will seek from KFOR the return of its forces to Kosovo. How does the U.S. see this?
And we categorically oppose that. We categorically reject that. We don't support it at all. And I also want to say that Kosovo has very firm security guarantees from the United States.
What would the U.S.'s response be if Belgrade indeed made an armed incursion in the north?
Well, first of all, I don't expect that. But second, I'll reiterate, Kosovo has firm security guarantees from the United States manifested by its participation in KFOR.
How can the U.S. or you personally currently contribute to reducing the tensions?
Well, look, I have told the community that I'm open to hearing their concerns, and they do have some legitimate concerns. We are also looking for ways to help this government strengthen its position on many things. But the most important thing that the United States would like to do is we want to see the fulfillment of the Association of Serb Municipalities. I have told people that the United States will take the lead on helping this government implement that. From our position, it is a legally binding international obligation. It's an obligation on Serbia, it's an obligation for Kosovo, it's an obligation for the European Union that helped negotiate it, and because we support the dialogue, it is our commitment. Now, a single politician in a single political party cannot walk away from that obligation. So we will work on the association. So that is going to be our contribution to the dialogue process.
Should the association be created before reach of final agreement?
Well, look, I think, to be honest, the association should be worked on immediately. It should be on the agenda for the next discussion. And we should start thinking about how we can use that to create trust between the government and the minority community. Now, this is not about Serbia. This is about a relationship between the government and a minority community within the confines of Kosovo, under the structure of the Constitution of Kosovo, and fully within the laws of Kosovo. So I see it as an opportunity to improve relations between groups and not as an opportunity for another country to meddle in the internal affairs of Kosovo.
But Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti, in a way, thinks that this should be part of the final deal and not discussed before the final deal.
It's already an existing obligation. So we believe it should be all existing obligations should be implemented as soon as possible.
Do you share the worry of Kosovo leaders that association can be a replica of Republika Srpska?
No, absolutely not. So it is not a mechanism that will be imposed on Kosovo. It's one that the government of Kosovo can work with the international community and the affected community to have a win-win solution that allows collective rights to be protected while maintaining the functionality and the constitutionality of this independent and sovereign country.
I would talk about Franco-German plan for a while. The plan itself does not mention mutual recognition. It doesn't mention Kosovo's membership to the UN, nor does it explicitly mention the association. Could that be a concession level for both sides to the eventual path of reaching a final agreement?
Well, look, the talks on that proposal, which we fully support, are at a very sensitive stage. So it is still at the very preliminary stages of discussion. Miroslav Lajčák will be here today to begin the discussions on how we move forward on this proposal. But again, we support it. We think it is a win-win for both countries, and it creates opportunities for them to discuss dispute resolution, the protection of minority communities, the protection of cultural and religious sites, and many, many other things that will help both of them deepen their European integration.
Kosovo government has not entirely accepted the plan, but it said that it's a good base for further negotiations. The focus of Kosovo government, as they say, is the mutual recognition should be a center of the final agreement, while for Serbia it seems that it's the association. What should be the center of final agreement?
The center should be European integration for all countries of the Western Balkans. And within that context, a good relationship, sustainable relationship with all the countries of the region with each other. And finally, full recognition of all of the countries of their right to exist, of their independence and their sovereignty. So our position has never changed from that. That recognition has to happen. However, the sequence of steps and how we get there is really for the dialogue to discuss. But our position remains that the countries of this region, in order for this region, entire region, to move forward, all of the countries should have equal, respectful, and peaceful relations with each other.
And mutual recognition?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I would also go back to the north and ask you, Kosovo has postponed the elections for the April. What do you expect to change by that time?
Well, look, what I expect to change is, first of all, we need to launch the discussions on normalization urgently. So hopefully that will have started. Second, we will have started a discussion on the association by April. And I have to be clear, we are going to have an association. We are going to be part of that process. And that process should include the government of Kosovo. If not, we can have that discussion with alternate partners, with civil society, with youth groups, with the business community, all of whom would like to see Serbia and Kosovo emerge from this cycle of instability. It's hurting business. It's hurting the futures of the young people. Everybody wants to see these two countries move forward.
When do you expect the final deal to be brokered?
I'm not going to put a timeline on it, and we can't put a timeline on it, but urgently.
Urgently. In recent months, the U.S. has asked Kosovo's Prime Minister Kurti on several occasions to withdraw some of his decisions in order to prevent further escalations on the ground. Prime Minister Kurti did so, although he resisted for some time. Does the U.S. view him as a credible partner who wants to negotiate in good faith?
I have to be really clear about this. The relationship between the United States and Kosovo is firm, it is solid, and it is with the people of Kosovo, not a particular person or party. So we are absolutely open to partnership with the government here. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to have tactical differences. People should expect that. But it doesn't mean that the United States is stepping away from our support for Kosovo.
Okay, on the other hand, Serbian President Aleksandra Vučić is strengthening his nationalistic rhetoric on Kosovo issue, but he has not been faced with open criticism from the EU or the US. What is your observation on that?
He has not been...
Has he?
Absolutely he has. Absolutely he has. And that criticism has actually produced results. You've seen Serbia vote against Russia in the United Nations twice, in the UN Human Rights Council once, and vote to suspend Russia from the EBRD. So they are facing criticism. And by the way, in the same way that we have asked your government to adapt its policies and adapt its actions to create regional stability, we've asked the same of Serbia. And we have gotten results. The ID card solution was a unilateral concession from Serbia. And in many other ways, we've received concessions on the way forward to create regional stability. So I do want to point out that we are not one-sided here, that we are looking for a win-win solution for both countries.
But Serbia, however, still rejects to impose sanctions to Russia.
I think they should. I think they have some obligations in their accession process to align with the European Union. And that's a discussion that they are having with Europe. And I do encourage them to do so.
Will you open that discussion with President Vučić in case he will be traveling to Belgrade also after Kosovo?
Yes, we have an ongoing discussion with President Vučić about regional initiatives and global stability and European territorial integrity. And I would have to say that we are not too far off in our views of what's happening in Ukraine.
To what extent is the Russian influence in the Balkans, especially in Serbia, the reason for instability in at least 3 Balkan countries?
I would say it's a very important factor. There are clear proxies of Russia working in the political systems of at least 3 countries. There is a tremendous amount of Russian disinformation in the information space in all of the region. And I have to say, you know, Russia doesn't have to make solutions. They just have to make problems to be able to to advance their agenda. So we have to be vigilant about that, and we'll push back on that malign influence everywhere and any time we see it.
How would you evaluate the region's response to that behavior?
I would say overwhelmingly, the region has responded positively. Every country in the Western Balkans has voted to condemn Russia's aggression on Ukraine. Every single one. Every single one has provided some level of humanitarian assistance to Ukrainians fleeing the violence. And every single one of them recognizes and at least respects in the case of Russia, respects the measures that Europe has imposed.
I'll just move to Montenegro also. Do you support Prime Minister of Montenegro, Dritan Abazovic, sign Montenegro's accession to Open Balkan in the coming days?
Our position on the Open Balkan is very clear. We support all regional economic integration initiatives with two conditions. One is that they bring you closer to Europe and they're not in conflict with any of your European obligations under the Berlin process or any other European-led process. And two, that all of the countries of the Western Balkans be allowed to join as full members. And so far, the Open Balkan qualifies under both of those categories. Now, should it fail to live up to either one of those conditions, we will absolutely pull our support for the Open Balkans.
But there seems to be no support in Montenegrin parliament on this issue. Do you think they can further contribute to the destabilization of this country?
No, I don't think so, because, you know, to be clear, the Open Balkans initiative is taking advantage of an existing trend of regional integration. And COVID accelerated this integration in the region because people couldn't travel by air. They were traveling by car, and they were traveling more by car in the region. You were seeing Serbian people going to the coast in Albania. You were seeing Albanian businessmen doing more business in Belgrade, going there to get vaccinated. You're seeing really important energy and transportation links between North Macedonia and the rest of the region. So it's already happening. The question is how to best create momentum to break down the barriers to free trade. And that's why, whether it's Berlin, Open Balkans, CEFTA, regional RCC, or the Common Regional Market, we support all of it.
I will just go once more to the north. After Kosovo Serbs left the institutions, do you think it's possible to integrate Kosovo North into Kosovo institutional system again?
I certainly hope so. And I certainly hope that as we reach a resolution, and hopefully soon, my counterpart, Miroslav Lajčák, is here today, that we'll see the barricades taken down and we'll see a path forward to reintegration. And I do invite the government of Kosovo to accept the people who come back, those who are eligible to come back, to allow them to come back. And then we move forward on the discussions on the normalization. You have met the representatives of Srpska Lista. Do you think they will support the return of Kosovo Serbs to Kosovo institutions? I think they want to return. I think nobody gains from the boycott. I think that we all need to be committed to a process of reconciliation, and I believe that they can be part of that. Mr. Escobar, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.